waiting for years. Welcome to the world where darkness breeds and shadows never sleep. This is not just a story. This is a warning. Welcome to True Horror. Story titled The Shadows of Grimsby Ridge. Genre: horror, mystery, family trip, shadows, abandoned town. Episode 1, Departure. The Williams family, Michael, his wife Lavra, and their kids, 13-year-old Ellie and 9-year-old Ryan, set off on a long-awaited road trip in their family van. Destination: Grimsby Ridge, an old, now abandoned mountain town that Michael read about on an obscure travel blog. Off-grid beauty, the blog promised. The sun was shining, the kids were laughing, and the GPS showed just 2 hours left. But as they drove higher into the mountains, the signal vanished, and Lavra noticed something odd. The road ahead wasn't even marked on any physical map. And then Ryan whispered from the back seat, "Mom, that man outside isn't moving." Episode 2, The Standing Man. Parked beside the road in the middle of nowhere was a human-shaped figure made entirely of dark stone. Its head tilted unnaturally toward the van, as if it had turned to look. Ellie laughed nervously. "It's just a sculpture." But Lavra couldn't shake the feeling that it hadn't been there just moments ago. When Michael slowly drove past, the shadow of the figure seemed to grow longer, reaching toward the van even though the sun was directly overhead. And then the van's dashboard lights flickered just for a second. Episode 3, Welcome to Grimsby Ridge. They arrive at the entrance of Grimsby Ridge. Rusted gates, half buried in weeds, stood ajar as if inviting them in. Wooden signs hung crooked, covered in moss. Ellie snapped a photo, but the image showed something else, a blurry face standing behind Ryan. "Glitch," Michael said, but Ryan looked pale. He was whispering. He muttered, "Right next to my ear." Lavra turned to ask more, but the van engine sputtered, then died completely. They were in and they weren't leaving. Episode 4, Campfire Whispers. With no cell service and no working engine, they set up a small camp near a crumbling church. As night fell, the wind grew oddly warm, wrapping around them like breath. Ellie and Ryan played near the remains of a swing set, its rusted chains creaking slowly. On their own, Lavra lit a fire and tried to stay calm, but in the silence between crackles, she swore she heard her name spoken in her late mother's voice from the trees. When she turned to Michael, he was staring at the swing. "It's moving against the wind," he said, voice flat. Episode 5, The Church Bell. Just past midnight, the old church bell rang once. A single chime, deep and metallic, echoed through the hills. But the tower had collapsed years ago. Michael, flashlight in hand, went to check it out. Inside, the pews were burned and the pulpit was etched with claw marks. Ellie found a Bible on the ground, its pages torn, but one verse circled in black ink. "Those who trespass without light shall become the shadow they fear." Suddenly, Lavra screamed from outside. Ryan was missing. Episode 6, Ryan's Return. They found Ryan in the graveyard behind the church, standing perfectly still beside a tilted headstone. His hands were cold, his eyes vacant. "He's not talking," Lavra whispered. Michael carried him back to the van. Later that night, Ryan finally spoke. "The man with no face told me where Ellie sleeps." Lavra froze. "Who's the man with no face?" Ryan simply pointed toward the broken mirror in the van. It had cracked perfectly in the shape of an eye. Episode 7, Ellie's Dream. Ellie woke up screaming. In her dream, she was dragged by shadows into the woods. Dozens of hollow-eyed children stood in silence. One child identical to her stepped forward and whispered, "Stay, you belong to us now." When Lavra tried to calm her, Ellie asked, "Do I still have a reflection?" She looked in the side mirror. Her face was there, but her eyes were not. They were just black voids. Then she fainted. Episode 8, The Audio Tape. Michael found a dusty old tape recorder inside the church, labeled July 14, 1979, Final Warning. He played it. A man's voice, shaking, whispered, "They walk in daylight now. The shadows are inside the living. If you're hearing this, leave. Don't trust the children, especially the ones who come back." Michael dropped the recorder. It was dated exactly 46 years ago to the day. Episode 9, The Van Moves. The next morning, the van had moved 30 feet downhill on its own. No tire marks, no engine sound. It just shifted inside. Someone had scrawled on the foggy windshield from the inside, "Return what was taken." Ellie asked, "What did we take?" Michael didn't answer, but in his coat pocket was something he hadn't noticed before. A rusted key tied with black hair. Episode 10, Whispers at Noon. The wind no longer blew. Time fell thick. At exactly 12 noon, all four of them heard the same voice. Not in the air, but in their minds. One must stay. One must sleep. One must disappear. One must choose. Lavra tried to shake it off, but Ryan stood up and said, "I'll disappear. It's better if I go." Ellie screamed and grabbed him, but her arms went through his body like smoke. Episode 11, The Hollow Hour. Ellie and Lavra sobbed near the fire as Ryan's clothes lay empty beside them. Michael, now distant, wandered into the forest. "I saw a cabin," he whispered. "It called my name." Lavra followed him, but he was gone. She found a trail of ash leading to the old well. From its depths, a new sound rose, soft humming. Ryan's lullaby. Episode 12, Reflections Lie. Lavra tried to start the van again. The dashboard blinked once. All mirrors inside the vehicle now showed different versions of them older, bloodied, lifeless. Ellie's reflection moved before she did. Then it smiled. Suddenly, Michael appeared outside, motionless. His eyes were completely black. When Lavra opened the door, he whispered, "I found the cabin. I never left." Episode 13, False Morning. The sky turned bright at 3 a.m., but the sun wasn't there. It was just light, no warmth. The air smelled like copper. They tried driving down the hill, but the road looped endlessly back to Grimsby Ridge each time. The stone figure at the gate looked more human. By the fourth loop, it was Michael, standing still, watching. Episode 14, The Choice. Ellie cried, "We're not real anymore." Lavra turned to her, horrified. Ellie's skin was turning gray, her voice echoing unnaturally. A deep growl echoed from the woods. "Only one walks out. Choose." Lavra closed her eyes, pulled Ellie close, and said, "I choose her." A flash of white light and silence. Episode 15, No One Leaves. A rescue crew found the van weeks later, empty, no signs of life, except for Ellie, found asleep in the back seat, whispering her mom's name. When they asked her what happened, she only said, "Shadows took the rest." I tried not to look in the mirror, but now I see them everywhere. Behind her, in the cracked rear window, a shadow watched that dead dot and smiled.